Good evening, and welcome to tonight's show. I am your host, Tina Dawson, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Inside Perspective. Please take time out to like and share and let everybody know that we're on the air. We're also streaming live on YouTube, so make sure that you let your friends and family know that they can reach us there if they're not on social media. Um, it is truly an honor to interview tonight's guest. He is a friend of the family, and he's a young man doing great things in the world. So I'm going to introduce to you Mr. John Martin II. John is a native of Atlanta, Georgia. His upbringing involved a close-knit family structure, outstanding academics, and athletics. He loves life and sees each day as a chance to better himself. Now, that's just a little intro on our guest, and I'm going to allow him to tell you the rest. Please help me give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, Mr. John Martin II.
Hey, everybody doing this evening? How y'all? How are y'all? Hey, Miss Tina, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I was telling you when we were backstage that I don't know you by your government name.
Yeah.
So please forgive me if during the interview I slip up and call you the name I know you by.
Hey, it's all right. It's all right. There's a lot of people that go by that. That's the professional name, John. But if you get a friend and family discount, everybody they call me go by Deuce. So yeah.
Well, we're gonna try to keep you John today.
That'll work for me. That'll work.
Thank you so much for saying yes. I've been doing the Inside Perspective for around 8 weeks now,
Okay.
and I just thought it was very important to get the perspective of someone that's young, and so people can hear about the great things that our young people are doing. So I did a little bit of the bio
Yeah.
to introduce you, but if you can feel free to you'd like to tell the viewers a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. As Miss Tina said, I'm from Atlanta. Born and raised in Atlanta. I'm a product of the suburbs. I won't claim inner city in it. And I'm a product of the suburbs. Good old Rockdale County. And my parents, John and Cassandra Martin, brought me into this world. They come from Louisiana, actually. So that's kind of like my roots, my blood. I got that Cajun inside blood in me. So, family has always been a big thing. But yeah, like I said, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Born and raised here. Grew up in Conyers, Rockdale County. Went to Rockdale County High School, the product of the magnet program there. Played sports, played baseball, swimming, marching band all throughout high school. Went to Georgia State University after playing a year of baseball at Emmanuel College, where I graduated from. At Georgia State, I was a part of the marching band, and also joined Kappa Kappa Psi. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, part of the band fraternity there at Georgia State, and had an amazing time at Georgia State. Really grew to love that school and the city, the area, everything about it. I see you, Damon. What's going on?
He said he was going to be on.
Oh yeah. I talked with him throughout the week too.
Yeah, John and Damon, my son Damon, who's stationed in Texas at Fort Hood, are real good friends. So he was excited that I was going to interview you.
That's my brother right there. I love that man. I love Damon. That's my boy.
Well, I just want to also tell you too,
yeah,
as a mother, I just want to thank you for your loyal friendship to my son. I really do.
Of course.
It's not easy being in the military and being away from your family and friends. He's always told me that you are one person that has been consistent in his life ever since we picked both of you up at Johnson Park for
I was just about to say, I remember first grade going back to y'all's house playing shooting hoops after school, after Johnson Park. I definitely remember that.
Yeah, we go all the way back to elementary school. Johnson Park, so you're like the son of the house. So
I remember two friends back from first grade and there's two people who I have relationships with from first grade and kindergarten who I can still remember to this day. Damon's one of those people. So definitely that I love that man. He is definitely a brother to me.
Well, I thank you for your friendship to my son.
Of course.
Now, in your intro, you in your introduction, you mentioned that you were on the swim team.
Yeah.
You were in band, you played baseball.
Yeah.
You had to have some skills or some foundation
Yeah.
Because you were very active. So tell us the secret of
Oh man.
how you stay grounded and rooted doing it all. 'Cause
Oh
that's a
man.
lot.
So ironically, my freshman year, I didn't do I did only one activity. I only swam in the wintertime. So from about October to maybe February or March, I swam.
Mhm.
That was the only thing I did my freshman year.
Okay.
I was in the magnet program, so that was already a boost of a
Mm,
lot of things academically. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be overwhelmed with things my freshman year in the high school, because that can make or break you.
right.
And so sophomore year was when I had auditioned for the band program and
Hmm.
made it. And so, all right, so I knew going into the year I was going to be in band, transitioning between the end of marching band season into swim season. And once swim season came to an end, I tried out for baseball.
Okay.
So what really kept me grounded was knowing that two things. My parents weren't going to allow me to play sports if I didn't have good grades,
Okay.
because you're a student athlete first. You're not an athletic student.
Okay.
You know that. And then also my faith, even at a young age, it kept me grounded, knowing that there was something better, knowing that there's someone supreme, knowing that I could go to someone with any kind of issues, even if I didn't quite fully understand it at a young age. And I don't think we ever truly will. You get
Right.
closer and closer to that point, but knowing that I had a relationship with God, with Christ, and had a faith system allowed me to stay grounded, even in high school. And that's something that's carried me to this day where I am.
Wow. Yeah, because like I said, I've seen it. You know, where's John? Or where he's such and such, and where's John? He's, they had you loaded.
Yeah,
So there
yeah.
was no room for you to get in trouble.
No, there wasn't. There was not. There
Yeah,
was not. I mean, I couldn't get in trouble when I was,
no,
as soon as I got to middle school, my dad was my principal,
that's
you
right.
know, and
Forgot
then by the
about
time my dad was my principal in middle school, and then by
I
the time I
forgot
got to
about
high school, my mom, she had built all those relationships with those people at Rockdale,
right.
because her school before then, Conyers, that fed into the high school I went to.
Hmm.
Not only did it feed into it, but her elementary school that she worked in, that's when she transitioned jobs, was
Right.
literally across the street from the high school I went to.
Right.
So middle school, I went to school with my dad. He was my principal. And before I started driving, I went to school with my mom in high school.
Right.
So there was no room for error, no room for messing up. I mean, it wasn't, notes getting sent home. It was teachers calling my parents, letting them know
Right.
what I had done.
Right.
So I had no room for messing up, no room for mistakes and errors, none of that. So it's done a lot of good for me though, and
Yeah.
allowed me to make sure I just stay on my toes, because you never know who's watching, never know who's going to be there. So yeah.
You did travel baseball a lot.
Yes. Yes.
And I wanted to know, what did the game of baseball teach you?
The game of baseball taught you, or taught me, I should say, your individual performance impacts the team.
Hmm.
It taught you to trust your other teammates, because baseball, each individual play depends upon one person's movements at a time. It's not like in football where you have a line blocking for somebody, or or a quarterback to throw you the ball. It's one person pitching to somebody. That next person has to hit the ball. That one person has to field it and make the accurate play. So you learn to be confident in your own skills, and you learn to be confident in your teammates' skills as well by playing travel baseball. Um, the game of baseball just taught you companionship and just taught you camaraderie between teammates. Because baseball goes fast. It may seem slow on the TV, but on that field, it
Yeah.
goes fast. So you can't, take over what happened from a previous game into the next game. You learn how to let things happen and forget about them, and kind of reset yourself for the next game. Um, and then baseball is one of the most superstitious sports. So you learn superstitions. You learn just kind of consistency. It really all superstition is. It's just consistency. You learn how to be consistent in your practices, especially if you see or feel as if it's producing a certain result.
Right.
So that's kind of what I picked up from the game of baseball, and just how small it is. It's a small game at the end of the day.
Hmm.
You can't make too many big strides. You can't, take things. You can't be looking to the ninth inning when you just started. You have to take it inning by inning. You have to take it step by step, and you can take that into life too.
Now I know last week, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
we found out that, we lost a legend, Hank
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yes.
And I watched this. The Braves did a memorial service to him, and and then they had his funeral on Wednesday, the same day we had our show last week.
Yeah.
And I, as a young male growing up in the world of baseball, what has Hank Aaron meant to baseball, and what did he mean to you?
And Hank Aaron in baseball, when you think Hank Aaron being a baseball player, you try and put your mind around how it's possible to hit that many home runs. Because hitting a ball in baseball is not an easy task. You're hitting a round object with a round object. It's not an easy task. And so you see this guy, you see these stat lines of a person hitting that many home runs, and you try to wrap your mind around it for one, and you think, that's where I'm trying to be. That's where I want to go. That's what I want to do. So you see his work and you see his stats as something you can achieve possibly. So, he's a benchmark. He's somewhere you try to get to.
Right.
Personally, I mean, to know of all the hate that he had to endure during his time of playing, people threatening to literally kill him if he broke the home run record, going to different stadiums, and facing the type of negativity that he did, and his perseverance and his continued dominance of the game throughout all he was going through, really just showed you how to persevere through things, how to put your blinders on, and how to put your foot down on the road and get to where you're trying to be. Because, I mean, regardless of where you are, there's going to be outside attacks. There's going to be people trying to take you off your path. And that's one thing that he did and did. I mean, they hit 755 home runs. You couldn't get off your path one day.
Yeah.
And to know that he did all of that in the midst of what he was going through is truly remarkable.
Yeah, I saw an interview last week when someone asked him a simple question as, how did you do it?
Yeah.
And his response was, I kept swinging.
Hey.
And I said that I am going to keep that to heart.
Right.
When things are rough, just keep swinging.
Mm-hmm.
When they look difficult, just keep swinging.
Just keep swinging.
So, yeah. I said that's a lesson. That's something that I'm going to keep with me forever. Because, trying to put together this show, telling you backstage that every week it was something, and my producer kept saying, hey, just keep going. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
It'll find itself. Just keep going. So, yeah. So you went to Rockdale Magnet School.
Yes.
And I wanted to find out how do you think your experience at Rockdale Magnet School prepared you for college?
Man, you got to see from a from a student's perspective, you got to see the intensity of teachers that you could possibly come across.
Mm-hmm.
I had some professors, I had some teachers in at the magnet program that would drill you, would not give you any breaks, they were on you, and you had to perform, you had to produce. You come across so many different types of people, smart people in the magnet program, different backgrounds. And because we were so smart, we got things differently. And so the connections we made and some of the friendships you made, the people you interact with kind of prepared you for the different types of people you come across in college. And not only that, or better, in addition to that, the actual hands-on things, being in the labs, using the lab equipment, it prepared you to get to school. Because when I remember my freshman year of college, when I started going in the labs, and what's going on, Ross? I see you too. And when I got into labs, I started using this equipment and doing these labs pretty much already having done them before.
Okay.
I've already used the equipment before. And if I hadn't used it or if I'm not familiar with it, I've seen it and I've, I've been told about it. I've been taught about it. So I know what it's for. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't have to go through the 2 weeks of just simple knowing how to maneuver, knowing how to use things. Hey, Mom. I didn't have to go through the 2 weeks. Or it didn't take me 2 weeks to learn how to use my lab utensils. It didn't take me 2 weeks to learn how to use the lab equipment, because I came into the program, I came into the school already knowing those things.
Right.
With your lab notebooks, I never made less than an A in college in my lab notebooks, just because I had one professor. If any of my friends are Diana Kennan, Miss Kennan, she would not let you into her lab unless you did your lab pre-work, and that entitled mapping out that mapped out your notebook. So your first 2 pages were your table of contents. I mean, you had to have what's going on, cousin Tim. You had to map out everything before your lab. You had to know what kind of math you were getting into. So you would do some practice questions. But pretty much you had to know that you had to show that you knew what you were doing before you got into the lab. She didn't want you to spend lab time, trying to understand what you're doing.
Right.
And that's the same thing that when you got into college. I mean, I got to college and we started doing labs. So let me, just naturally, let me do my pre-lab. Let me do my lab work beforehand so that when I get to lab, I know what I'm doing. And that's just something that not every student did. Right. And I really can attest that to Diana Kennan, as much as sometimes she got under our skin as students, but she made sure you had your fundamentals in lab practice before you went into the lab. And I could really attest that to her class, and her specifically, honestly. There's a couple classes where I didn't make it back to the lab because that pre-work had not been done. And but I really want to thank her for that, because it made me that much better of a lab student when I got to college.
Yeah, I think that the magnet schools, and now let me ask you this, because I don't know, is the magnet program still considered dual enrollment?
I'm not sure, because when I was there, you had the magnet school. Dual enrollment, no, actually.
Okay.
But magnet school was its own entity, still associated with Rockdale County High School.
Okay.
So like if you were in a magnet program and let's say you were an athlete as well, you played your sports for Rockdale.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it operated.
Okay. Okay. And the reason I asked, because Damari, my daughter, did dual enrollment.
Right.
And, she went to Rockdale Career Academy, and we had to choose between the magnet and Rockdale Career Academy, and she chose that avenue. But I want to ask you, why is it important on both of the campuses, whether it was Rockdale Magnet or Rockdale Career Academy, they push STEM?
Yes.
Push STEM. And I want to ask you, why do you feel it's important for kids to consider STEM as a field career?
Got you. I mean, just currently speaking, everything is rooted around technology, it seems. Everything. I'm proud. Thank you, sweetheart. That's my fiance right there. But everything in today's world is rooted around some sort of technology. Automated this, automated response to this, tech that, no person here you're speaking to, automated reply. Everything seems to be rooted around technology. And not just technology, but, science too. And when you start looking at the underlying factors of science and technology, you get math, you get engineering. So that's they all, for one, they all come together and they all play a part. They all go hand in hand. They revolve around one another. But outside of that, the way we live, the world that we live in today is just moving towards so much more technology that you almost would be a fool to not consider some sort of, if not directly technology, if not directly STEM, something that stems off of STEM, because that's just the way that the world's going in right now. And if you aren't, if you don't have any kind of connection to that, you might get lost, you might get left out, you might miss something that could be beneficial to the world. So there's so many opportunities in technology. There's so many opportunities in science, mathematics, and engineering. I know a couple of engineering friends, people that are still in biotechnology, people that are in regular technology, IT. Myself with science. I know a lot of other scientists out there and lab technicians and all that kind of stuff. So there's so many careers, so many pathways, so many independent business ventures that can be going out with STEM as well. So, you don't want to limit yourself to just one area. So you definitely want to you would definitely want to consider STEM.
Yeah, and the one thing that I learned with Damari's journey is that, there are things out there to give our kids opportunities.
Right.
And just because we as parents don't understand it, that doesn't mean that you limit your children by not looking into those. Some kids in school are bored, so they need things to challenge them.
Right.
You don't need a test. You don't need to test your kid to figure that out. But with all the technology that is around us, the cell phones, the iPad,
Right.
the computer,
Right.
I think that's a good field for the children to look at. And also they're pushing for a lot of minorities to look into those fields. They're really,
Definitely.
really pushing
Definitely.
to get the STEM careers in front of people of color or people, just minority per se.
Definitely.
So I think,
Definitely.
I think we
Definitely.
can really look into that, the STEM field and magnet school and career academies.
Definitely. I mean, the magnet school, we were associated with Georgia Tech. So during the summertime, we were taking, school trips to Tech, using their equipment. I mean, they would send down, if they got something new, they would send down the older, which still wasn't even old. They would send down their used equipment to us. We had a direct feed into just Georgia Tech. I mean, there was plenty of students who left the magnet school and went to Georgia Tech and continued and started their secondary education. People who went to I know a guy who went to Magnet, graduated from Magnet, went to Tech, and now he even works for Tech.
Wow.
So it's like that. It's definitely like that, and there's so many opportunities out there for us.
Well, since you talked about leaving Magnet and going to college, you left Magnet and went to Emmanuel College.
I did.
Georgia State. So let's talk about that. Why did you
Man.
do Emmanuel before going to State?
So, ironically enough, what's going on, Ronte? Before going to Georgia State, I did start at Emmanuel College. I wasn't even planning on going to Emmanuel College, though. I had actually did my college tour at LSU. I got my acceptance letter, been on campus, about this close to having a roommate, dorm selected out. And I get a call on a Thursday, I believe, say, hey, we got your questionnaire that you filled out online. Because when I applied, because I applied it to Emmanuel, but after I applied, they had a questionnaire for baseball. They said, enter your stats and, your age and all that kind of stuff and your number, contact information. I just thought, I shot in the blue. I said, why not? Let me go ahead and put this stuff in and just see where I wouldn't even say and see where it goes. Just let me just put this in and if the Lord works, he works. So I'm at the gas pump one day before going to the movies in the summertime. I remember this, and I get a phone call, unknown number. Answer this real quick. Hello, hey, this is Coach, not Brister. It was the other coach. It was our assistant coach. He said, hey, this is our coach from Emmanuel College. I got your application. I got your stuff. Got your stats that you put on online in our online thing. I said, oh, I do remember doing that. So we have an open tryout next Monday. If you would like to come and try out, you can come and do that, and we either give you evaluation or just we'll go from there. I said, all right, let me call my dad. So I called my dad up and I said, hey, Dad, coach from Emmanuel College want me to come try out for him. They got an open tryout. He called me up and said, he said, before I even could finish, I think he said, well, do you want to do it? What day is it? I think he was more excited than me. And so when I told him the date, I said, it's on June 11th. He said, oh, my, I thought we gotten past. I said, what? He said, June 11th. That's my parents' anniversary date. And literally for the last 6-7 years, we had been doing something baseball related on their anniversary date.
No.
And so he was kind of like, oh, man, well, all right, I guess so. I guess if you want to do it, let's do it then. So we went up there. I stopped at a batting cage on that morning, made our way up there. It was cold and rainy for some reason. I remember that. And after the tryout, there was about maybe 10, maybe 15 other kids out there. After the tryout, though, I remember Coach coming up and say, hey, we like you. You show good, mechanics, good prospects. If you that's my dad, y'all, right there. That's my dad. Love you, Pops. Coach says, look, if you want to come out and try, if you want to play, you got a spot here. We can talk to you later on about scholarship opportunities and this and that. But if you want to play, you got a spot here. We get your contact information, give you some time to think about it. But yeah, we like you. We will want you. I said, oh, wow, okay, all right. Then that's my little sister. There she is. Hey, Chris.
Everybody watching tonight.
So yeah. Thanks, Chris. I'm proud of you too. My sister, that's a rock star right there. My little sister's a rock star.
I gotta get her on too.
Yeah. So we'll come home and we're thinking about it, talking about it, and they called me up a couple weeks later, or about a week later, saying, "Hey, there's a little bit of scholarship money for you, my T Jenny. There's a little bit of scholarship money for you. If you want to come play, just say the word. You got a spot on the team." Fresh out of high school, still loving the game of ball. Who's not going to take that opportunity? Of course, I'll go play baseball. So went up to little old Royston, Georgia, Franklin Springs. If you're taking 29 out of Athens, like you're going to South Carolina, you'll run right into the college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's right off the side of the road, right off the interstate. Small little town. You get to the campus and it has a little bridge that goes over the road. City of Franklin Springs, home of Emmanuel College, a little college town. Went there for a year and played baseball. Had a great time. Christian school. It tested my faith for sure.
Oh, wow.
It did. Because I was youthful in my faith at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was, I kind of felt like it was all this independent me kind of thing. And I felt like you directed yourself in your walk with Christ, not him directing you. And I didn't see that at the minute. Right. And so when I got there and I see and feel the atmosphere of the youth leaders there and our chaplains and our spiritual leaders, I felt forced. I felt pressured. And I said, I don't feel like this is supposed to be. A little did I realize they're just trying to be that little chirp in your ear. Say, hey, remember, God's there. Christ is there for you. Mm-hmm. He's always going to be there for you. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't take it as that. And so it kind of pushed me a little bit. It pushed me. And because of that, me getting big headed, wanting, there's got to be more out of college. There's got to be more to this thing. I don't, really have too many friends here. Lord, little did I know I still have a friend from that school who I talk to on a pretty consistent basis. But I say, I want to go back to where the homies are. I want to go back to where my friends from high school were. And, so I said, I made that decision in the springtime. I say, I want to transfer out of here. So I talked to my daddy and I say, Dad, I'm kind of feeling indifferent about this. I feel like I belong somewhere else. I said, well, I mean, if you do your application, get accepted, we'll make it happen for you. And so, I applied to Georgia State and I got in this time because the first time I applied to Georgia State, I didn't get in. And so it took me that second time application to get into Georgia State. And so I did. I got in, moved out of college, moved out of Emmanuel after that first year. Spent time throughout the summer. That summer was rough too. Just transition period, going from a small school, when I'm got to go to Georgia State, being back home after going to college for a year. It was a rough summer, rough transition, getting it and going to Georgia State. That first semester, the first 2 semesters, honestly, were rough. But I was able to, get through it. And like I said, once I got to Georgia State, once I was able to get a grip on things and kind of understand how Georgia State and Atlanta operated, and the biggest thing, finding my own niche, finding my own community, finding my own home within Georgia State, I was able to really prosper, I believe.
So one thing I know about your family unit, is that your parents had 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Yes.
And since the day I met you, your relationship with your father has been extremely close-knit.
Yeah.
And as a 27-year-old young male, looking back, what I was going to ask you, no, I'm not going to ask that way. How important was it growing up? Now that you look back, how important was your dad and his presence in your life? Because a lot of kids, they, and you went to school with some, right? And they didn't have that male figure.
Right, right.
And they only had their mother. And I'm gonna tell you this quick story right quick. So I was talking to your dad one day.
Okay.
And we were at, I don't know if he told you this story, but I was talking to your dad one day and we were in the parking lot of Risa. And I'm not going to go into detail about what we were talking about.
Okay.
But he said something to me, and I think I shocked him with my response. And he looked at me and he said, we were having a conversation. He looked at me and he said, Tina, let me say this to you. He said, you as a woman have done a phenomenal job with Damon. He said, you have nurtured him,
Mm-hmm.
and you've done the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at me and he said, but what you cannot do is teach him how to be a man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to let go a little bit and allow God to bring fatherly men, save men into his life.
Right, right.
So that we can teach him how to be a man, because you can't do it. And I bawled because in that moment, I kind of felt like a failure, But then on the flip side, I was so thankful that John loved me enough as a friend to try to explain that to me,
Right.
that
Right.
you as a mother, even if a single mother, I learned the hard way that when you have a male child, the best thing you can do is put them in some type of activity. It doesn't have to be sports. They can be good artists. Put them in some type of activity. And then what you do is you partner with that coach or partner with that facilitator to help you raise that child, right?
Right.
But you have some parents that, you have some young men that don't have that male figure, and you grew up with one.
Yeah.
So tell us, what did it mean? Now you're looking back now. What did it mean for you to have your father in your life all these years?
Yeah. Oh man, it means everything, honestly. I look back at it now and just have to thank him for everything, opportunity, support, getting us here and there, being a taxi driver, being, walking ATM, as I joked around back in middle school. But him being there for us, for me, just what was it? I mean, it's made me who I am. He's taught me so many things. He's shown me so many things, and I've observed so much. With or without him knowing, he probably does know, but I've observed so much from him, and because I'm a silent learner, and I observe, I watch, and I see, and I won't ask you a single question, but I'll look and see everything, how you do it, when you do it, why you do it, and can go back and recreate it, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do with what my dad has taught me all throughout my years. I growing up, I got picked on for the way I dressed. But
Really?
now you get, most definitely. I remember, always having to have my shirt tucked in, regardless of the dress code.
Yeah.
Knowing how to dress, the type of shoes I'm wearing. I remember being in baseball, because I got a high waist, and so I remember my pants were baseball pants. You tuck your shirt in and everything. It looked like my pants are super high. I'm like, they're just on my waist. I don't know what you're laughing at. They're just on my waist, and so, he's taught me so much, and I really can attribute the man who I am today to him and God, because without him, both of them, I'd be clueless. I would be not where I am today. Just seeing the effort and just seeing the diligence to do what he has to do, and just the work ethic. My dad is a worker. I mean, he's a strong worker, hard worker, giving 100% every single time he has to put out effort. That's my dad. I love that man. I really do. If I don't tell him enough, I love that man. He's really turned me and made me into the person I am, genuinely. So it means everything to have had him in my life growing up. So yeah, thank you, Dad. Thank you.
Yeah, he's been a good friend to me too, and I just wanted to give you a moment to speak on that.
Yeah.
Because he's been a good role model for you, and not only you, he's been a good role model for Damon.
Yeah.
I've had to pick up the phone
Yeah.
Call your dad a couple of times. Hey, you gotta help me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Help
been
me.
interesting. It's been interesting these last couple of years because what I've realized is that we're both completely, even though he's still my dad, we're both completely different people than we were years ago.
Right.
And so our relationship hasn't changed. We're just almost having to redefine it in a good way, you know? We're having to relearn one another. And I mean, just in any relationship that happens, marital, you know, friendships, but you know, your parents, y'all, you change as people over time, and you have to, you know, either consistently, you don't want to have to relearn, but you have to consistently, you have to consistently learn, you know, that partner. And in this case, this is actually what I'm doing, you know, with my dad. We having to relearn one another. And it's been trying, you know, moving out because I've been there, been up under their wings my entire life.
Right.
So, you know, this is a new venture for both of us. Right. He hasn't had anybody move out from under him. I haven't had to, you know, move out. So it's trying for both of us. But yeah, it's been a blessing to truly have my dad in my life and be present and active in my life as well.
Yeah.
So
that's the key. Present
yeah,
and active.
Yeah. I know I can genuinely go to him and be like, Dad. And then anything afterward, he'll be like, you know, well, listen, literally.
So you graduated with a bachelor's of biology.
Yes.
So where did your passion from biology come from?
Oh man, years ago, I think I don't know if I was face down in a driveway looking at a snake in first grade first, or in elementary school first, or if I was, you know, if I had found that book in Miss Renahan's first grade class about the principles of science, and it kind of broke things down to you on a level to where a first grader could understand it, and it just amazed me.
Wow.
Animals have always been the things that I've always been an interest and a love of mine, and it just expanded from there. Just always been into nature, always been into the outdoors, wanting to figure out things, wanting to learn things, and just always having an analytical mindset, seeing something and just trying to understand how it worked, why it worked, looking at, you know, a process and trying to figure out the details of that process. I've always kind of had that kind of mindset, and naturally, animals and science is what I kind of gravitated to.
Mm-hmm. So you currently work at Mass Test.
Yeah, Matt.
You are let me see if I can say it, microscopic analyst.
Yeah. There's one or two. You can either say microscopic analyst or you can say microscopist.
Okay, I can't
my
say
dad
that.
said Jimmy Neutron, crocodile hunter. So let's turn it to a family. Steve Irwin, family roast session.
I know.
Okay.
So tell the audience, what is a microscopic analyst? What is that? What do you do?
All right. So, I mean, shortly speaking, microscopic analyst uses a microscope to analyze whatever they analyze. It just depends on what kind of microscope and what you're looking at. In our case, we work with polarized or light microscopes. We also have electron microscopes of two different types as well. One will kind of give you an in-depth kind of look on what you're looking at, give you whole chemical makeup of what you're looking at. And the other one gives you really detailed surface images of what you're looking at down to the nanometer. And what I do, though, is I spend my time on compound microscopes using polarized light to look through crystals, specifically asbestos fibers and asbestos forms and other fibers in that kind of size category. It can range anywhere from the type of things we looked at from building materials like sheetrock, what we call joint compounds that go between sheetrocks, cove base, like at the bottom of boards and at the bottom of walls and between walls and floors, to roofing shingles and materials, all the way to cosmetic powders like beauty powders, baking powders, like for your face, makeups and talcum powders, gold bonds, things like that. So we kind of have a couple different sectors within microscopy, but I do light microscopy, and like I said, use my microscope to look at asbestos fibers, talcum powders, and building projects.
So tell us about one of the projects with being a microscopic analyst.
Mm-hmm.
Give us tell us about one of the projects that you're working on. So
Yeah, yeah.
look, so we can kind of tie the two together.
Right. So what I always tell people is, or what I always say, so Johnson and Johnson. You ever heard on TV mesothelioma, or have you been exposed to talcum powders from Johnson and Johnson? Well, we kind of do we're one of the labs that participates in the research behind those cases. We are actually on the good side, though. So we are with plaintiffs who are trying to get at Johnson and Johnson because somebody in their family or them still themselves have mesothelioma, lung cancer, or even reproductive cancer, which you'll find in women, because women will use baby powders and things like that in their lady areas and things of that, which you viewers, do not stop using talcum-based baby powders. If you're still using those, do not use those. They are carcinogens and do cause cancer.
Okay.
But yeah, so we are one of the labs that participates in the research and in the analysis of the baby powders against Johnson and Johnson.
Okay.
So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
So so you said that that someone may have a lawsuit against Johnson and Johnson concerning baby powder.
Right.
So does the defendant hire you, or how is mass test brought into the picture?
We have relationships with the law firms that the clients will reach out to. So the clients will reach out to. So order of operations, client has cancer. They reach out to a law firm that specializes in these types of cases, and that law firm will reach out to us, say, hey, we have a client this age, these products. We need you to test what they were using, or what they were using, or the year, or a same product from the year that they were using. That's how we break it down by years. We're able to break down the baby powders by year of manufacturing. And what we do is we're able to take their powders, or like I said, powders from the years, and break them down to look at asbestos content as well as concentrations. And we can characterize it on so many different things. There's a few different types of asbestoses. There's size differences, concentration. So we'll break it down like that, and we will give out reports and analysis based off of what we conclude. In addition to that, my boss's boss kind of he will actually take the findings and take our analysis, and he serves as the expert witness in court, and will go and testify with our findings and with our research. And so that's kind of the big picture idea of what we do, and how it all kind of ties together. That helps out.
Well, you hear about these things on TV,
but
you just never know about the behind the scenes.
Right.
You just know somebody, when you see the commercials, they'll say, call here if you think that, you got cancer from the talcum baby powder, right? And then the person goes to an attorney, but you don't know the behind the scenes, the science.
Right.
Yeah, so that they're able to prove their position in court to say, yes, it did, or no, it didn't. So yeah, that's very interesting to me.
Definitely. Yep. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis.
So what are some misconceptions about the field of biology?
Misconceptions. What kind of help guide me along here? What are you kind of looking for?
Well, some people think, you can't make a lot of money in the field of biology. And I with that, they have to be open-minded, right? Because it depends on what field of study that you go in biology, right? So let's switch the question.
Okay.
So explain to the viewers just some of the fields. When you do a master's in biology, what are some of the fields that you can go into with that degree?
Gotcha. With the master's in biology, oh man, you can go back into teaching, whether it be at a high school or even sometimes undergrad level. They'll allow you to do that still. You can enter into multiple different types of lab settings. I mean, there's forensics labs. There are quality and production labs. You can go and work quality assurance and quality control for different labs, which pays pretty well. There's so many different fields you can go into. Literally the field of environmental biology. There's zoo biology, working with animals, working different types of animals, exotic animals. There's also, then you get into the medicines, you get into the medical practices, which sometimes you can still get into with biology degrees or upper level, let's say like physician's assistants, without getting a full doctorate or without getting a full medical degree. Yeah, you can go and get a PA, which is, they have just about as much power as a doctor as well, which produces good money too. So there's a lot of different fields of biology. And that's one of the reasons why I chose, when I got my degree, to have a biology degree and not just a pre-med or not just a specialized degree, because having just a biology degree forces you to take so many other different courses. Genetics, you're taking cellular biology, molecular cells. So you can go into doing, you can go into working for companies that, shoot, we're in a COVID pandemic right now, that go and test samples to see, PCR. You hear PCR. What is PCR? Polymerase chain reactions, knowing how to splice up the sample that you're getting, the DNA, to amplify certain things that you're looking at. All that you can get from a biology degree. All that you can do in the field of biology. There's so many different billions.
What about crime scene investigation?
Yes.
I know
yes.
That's you. That's biology.
It is.
I love my CSI show.
Oh yeah, and it's specifically just crime scene. You have blood splatter, which is one type of forensics. You have chemical analysis. I could even take what I'm doing with my microscope, do fiber analysis, because I'm not able to just look at asbestos. I can also, from my microscope, you hand me a sample or you hand me something that's been prepared, I can look at it and tell you the different types of fibers that are on it, whether that's nylon or rayon, whether that's fiberglass, whether that's cellulose, which is nothing, just plant fibers. But I can tell you all that just from looking at a prepared, sample already. And that's all considered forensics as well. Then you have, DNA testing. You got DNA testing. You have fingerprint analysis. All that are considered fields of biology. And then you have parts of it that venture into chemistry too. So it's a really big connected diagram, if I could say.
Yeah, and I one thing I like about what you're saying is that it's a career or a field that you can do a lot of pivoting in, right? You're not just cornered.
Right.
Because you got something specific, you got a specific degree. With the degree in biology, you have a lot of options.
Yes.
So that's good. That's
definitely. I love that last semester, the last couple semesters of college, taking your biology degree, when you start getting into your senior electives. Because like I was saying, you're taking genetics, you're taking marine biology, I'm taking animal and plant biology. So you start to learn all these aspects of the science that you can venture out into. And like you said, you can pivot from one thing to another without being lost. So it's being flexible. Biology is a very flexible field, and that's one thing I do enjoy about it. It's not like, there you go, that answers the question.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are just joining us, we are interviewing John Martin II, who is a microscopic analyst with Mass Test here in Atlanta. If you have any questions for John, please feel free to put them in the comment section, and we'll make sure that we ask the question before the end of the show. Now, I'm going to tell you, I really thought you would have taken your biology degree and did something with water.
Yeah,
because I know in your bio you talked about being a lifeguard.
Yeah.
You were at Georgia State. That was one of the things that you did. So let's talk a little bit. We have some time left until the questions come in. But let's talk about you being a lifeguard at Georgia State.
Oh man, being a lifeguard at Georgia State, it opened me up to another sector of school. You started seeing things from the recreation center, because that's a whole different community. That's a whole another family right there. The recreation center, which is almost like the student center has its own little area, has its own community. That was us at the rec center. So it opened me up to another spectrum and another group of friends that I still communicate with some today. But being a lifeguard, I just make sure I stay physically fit, because you can't be an out of shape lifeguard. it just can't have you can be, you know, on call at the minute, having to swim, you know, and rescue 2 or 3 people at a time. You can't, you know, fall out and be tired from that. You have to be able to be fit. You have to be physically fit.
Right.
And so that and being close to the gym as well, make sure that if I wasn't in the pool swimming, I knew I was going to walk past the gym. I said, you know what, let me go ahead and get a workout in or something like that. But I enjoyed my time at the pool because, like I said, it opened me up to new people, make sure I stayed fit, and just was something to kind of help add to just doing things at Georgia State. It kind of helped spark, you know, a new change in things because I had begun to do better in school, began to, you know, feel better about life. So when I got into when I got into looking when I got into being a lifeguard, I was able to re-look at things and say, you know what, all right, I'm doing all right with myself. I got a little on-campus job. I can do this thing. I can do this thing in school. So it was really refreshing to have that job. I had just started lifeguarding a year before at another pool out in Gwinnett County. So knowing that I could take those skills to somewhere else was also reassuring. So I really enjoyed that.
So you're also a member of KK Psi.
Yes, I am. Kappa Kappa Psi.
Georgia State.
At Georgia State. New Alpha chapter.
The project that I did for you was the baseball jersey hanging behind you.
Hanging right there.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I know it was homecoming, and you and some of the band members were going back for homecoming. So let's talk just quickly, because I have another question I'm going to ask you before we end. But talk a little bit about that project that I did for you.
It was really spur of the moment. I was thinking, I said, you know what? It's my second homecoming. I got to go back with some gear, you know? I got to go back with something personalized. I said, I know exactly who can do it. And so I hit you up. I said, Miss Tina, I need some jerseys. I need a baseball jersey. Do you think you can do it? Sure. You, without a hesitation, you said, yeah, we can do it. If I can't do it, I know people who can. We can figure it out. And I said, all right, I like that. And it was, I think I was about halfway through with my order. And I said, you know what? I'm actually going to need 3 more to make 4 because I got some. I kind of said some things, and now some other people are wanting some too.
Yeah.
So I had you know, create this jersey here. Got the Psi on the front, you know, along with the year I came across right there, the spring 15, and then I got my chapter, my New Alpha chapter, on there, and then on the back, I am Melodic Mind, the 7 of my line of 12. So you know, I just had to get it swagged out, had to get it personalized. But it was really good working with you. You were able to hear you heard our ideas, you heard my ideas. You didn't try to push anything on me. You just were able to take what was in my head and make it a reality. You offered different suggestions. If we didn't like that, your input on the color selection, sizing, which I had no idea about. She said, "Do you want the 8-inch number or the 12-inch number?" I said, "Oh, there's different sizes." I didn't know that. So you know, you were very helpful in our time making this project come to reality. And I wouldn't go to anybody else knowing what you do and how you do things. So I had to come to you. I had to get it done.
Well, thank you for allowing us to work on that project. It really was fun. And thank you for the pictures. You all were fly.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the part of this company that I really love.
Yeah.
You know, we specialize in custom designs.
Right.
And we can take your ideas and make it a reality. You know, we specialize in custom, and you know, we can meet everybody's branding needs. So whether it's a sports team, whether it's a band fraternity, a teacher, a coach, a barber, it doesn't matter. You know, True Designs is the place.
Right. You go to your page.
Designs to life.
Right. We go to your page and you look at your page. I mean, anything from pins and cups to banners to jerseys and hats and, you know, satchel bags. You can do it all. And I love how you allow yourself to be that flexible and just have that many resources to do what you need to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. You are welcome.
I've got to get in. We got to talk about the lady of the house. let me say, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
So For those who don't know, John Martin II has a fiance. He recently proposed to Marissa.
Yeah. Yes.
He has a fiance.
I do.
And then recently you bought a home.
Yes.
Me and you had a conversation. I really think this topic is important because in the conversation you and I had, you were explaining to me that it was so important for you to get yourself together so that before you proposed to her, you knew you wanted to marry her. But before you proposed to her, you felt that your life needed to be at a certain place and you wanted to have something to bring her into. You said that was so important. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why you felt it was important as a young male to have yourself somewhat together before you brought this beautiful woman into your life.
Right. First off, I believe that you're as a man, you're supposed to add ease and stability to your woman's life. You should not come into your woman's life and make it more hectic. Okay. And I knew that stability and comfort go hand in hand. And I didn't want us, financially speaking, to be wasting money with an apartment if we knew that we could achieve something that we could own and call ourselves and call our own. She just walked in the room here.
You better answer this right.
Right. I wanted to provide ease and comfort for her and know that she could have something we could come home to together and we could begin our lives with. And it's just important that you know where you want to be in life, know where you want to go in life, because that adds to her comfort as well, knowing that you have a plan, knowing that you have an objective, knowing that you have a destination that you're trying to get to.
Right.
When I asked her grandma for her blessing, I said, look, at the end of the day, I just see her as a partner that I can do life and figure it out with. Because the more and more I go about this thing called life, I realize that nobody has it really completely figured out. They've just got it figured out for themselves.
Right.
And they know how to make it happen for themselves. So you can look to others as examples, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to do things for yourself and to be able to create for yourself.
Right.
And so I wanted to make sure that we had something that we could begin as ours and could carry us through the beginnings of our forever.
Right. Well, I am so proud of you, and you are a great example of how it should be done. Right.
Hey, well.
And you have put her grandparents at ease, knowing that, when they said yes, when you asked for her hand in marriage, that she was going to be provided for and taken care of, because you showed them in your preparation before you asked her, you showed them, the blueprint of what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes, I know friends that, they didn't do it that way. And sometimes they put it all on the female, right? And
definitely.
It's not the way it's supposed to be.
No,
right?
no, no.
And you're supposed to lead, right? So you're supposed to lead in the beginning, you're supposed to lead throughout. And women, sometimes people say that women don't like to submit. We will submit if we can trust the person that we're submitting to, and know that person is going to lead us. Might not be perfect, but you have the best intent. So we don't mind submitting. But you gotta
say submission is a two-way street. It's a two-way street. Just as as a man, you expect her to submit. You have to be something in someone that she's willing to submit to. And like you said, that comes with knowing that there's comfort in you and that she doesn't have to have that guard up 24/7.
Right. Well,
so,
we've got 2 minutes left. I wanted to ask you, do we have any questions for John? Thank you, Damon.
Thank you, my boy. Hey, now you've always been a good friend too, Damon. I appreciate. Hey, Damon, I was thinking about this earlier. Damon keeps me grounded he keeps me humble too, just as much as I hope I do the same for him. I love that man.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure you do. But we got 60 seconds left. And
Okay.
I'm gonna give you the opportunity to share or say whatever you want to at
Okay.
these 60 seconds. So
Okay.
go. Anything you want to leave?
Everyone, I appreciate y'all coming to tune in and check us out and just to hear me speak. As I mentioned to Miss Tina before, doing this is nothing but an open journal. I got a question. What's the hardest part of biology in a lab setting?
Yeah, that's good.
The hardest part of biology in a lab setting, I would say, is not always knowing where you're going to go, not always knowing what the next step is, but knowing how to go through your scientific method and produce a credible experiment or produce credible results that may not always go along with what you expect them to be, but knowing how to continue scientifically when there's no kind of direction and maybe no endpoint at the moment. That's probably one of the hardest things, kind of blind experimenting, I would say.
Well, that was a good question. We are at the end. We're at the end of the show. And I just want to say again, John, thank you so much for being
You're
on the
welcome.
show. I thought it was very important to get your inside perspective of being a microscopic analyst. I'm
Yeah,
getting
you getting it.
and and getting the viewers to understand the power of going into the career field of STEM.
Definitely, definitely.
And I thought it was very important to get a young perspective. So thank you so much. I want to thank all the viewers, your 6,052 family members.
Hey, that's about half of them.
That's awesome. That's awesome because you know what? They'll support you through
Yeah.
all of your endeavors. So that is great that they did. This is Tina Dawson with True Blue Designs presents the Inside Perspective. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to our guest, John Martin II, for being on the show. And we will
Thank you
see
for
you
having me.
next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Producers, take us out.